has spent so much time, just really focusing on helping others to be aware of more, to see more, to find their truth, to find their self, to resonate with their own spirit. And she does that through several different ways. She gives readings that she channels. She teaches people to recognize their own story, and not just to recognize and write it, but to value it. Because often it's our own stories that we don't really value too much, or we place a lot of judgment on. And by writing, you place everything, the light and the shadow, and she teaches people to be able to be at peace with that, and to realize that our story is our light and our shadow, and to accept that and find self-love and empowerment through that. And she's going to be, sharing her experiences and some tips and techniques and things that will help us each to move forward, to be able to embrace our story and to be able to embrace other stories too. So, Reverend Lynn Rogers.
Chris and I had just made a 15-day, 7,000-mile trip by train across the United States, and I had a wonderful time. I just picked up the end of his cough, so if I cough, you know why. I was writing Coach with America. And I know how America feels. That's another talk. It was a wonderful experience.
Wow.
I wanted to talk today about ageless creativity. And in 2015, which age group was growing the fastest? Can anybody guess?
Baby boomers.
90-year-olds.
No.
Yes. The fastest growth is in the population of 90-year-olds compared to itself, percentage-wise. How many of us know somebody in their late 80s, 90s, or beyond who's active? And we might not have said that sometime back. We're in the middle of a revolution, Stanford says. I have taught older and younger adults, and I have a credential in teaching creativity with active older adults. So I've gone to in-services from Stanford. The human lifespan right now is growing arithmetically more than any other time in recorded history. If you're a baby being born tonight, how old do they project that you're going to live? 100 to 120.
Whoa.
No, really. And we are the pioneers, so I'm here to bring you the message that we are the pioneers. And what is the thing that can take 7 years off your life?
Smoking.
No. Thinking negatively about aging of yourself or others. You can lose 7 years. So with my students, we focus on the positive parts of aging. And that's what I wanted to share with you. For some physical facts, at age 60, we begin to be able to use both hemispheres of our brain better together. Women had a little edge on that earlier, but that happens at 60. Heterosexual couples are better partners to each other intimately from 50 on, because things sort of balance out. And I don't know in the gay and lesbian community. I haven't read the study. But I know that ageism is in all of our communities.
Yeah.
There's ageism. And ageism is the unfair prejudice against ourselves or others because of age. And it's based on ignorance. And so this is what we want to overcome. As a teenager, I worked on civil rights. As a 15-year-old, sending money to voter registration in the South. I worked on women's issues, pioneering women's spirituality, even in this church when Janet was the only one in 1983 who found it okay. Remember that?
I loved it.
And so I find myself thrown as a catalyst sometimes. And right now I've worked with animal rights, children with special needs.
Yes.
But right now, working on ageism. And it's so exciting to realize there are good things that happen to us. I figured out anecdotally by teaching creative writing and memoir to active older adults since '97 that there is one group that has better long-term memory we hit at a certain age. And that is when we hit 90, our long-term memory gets better. So if you're 90, you're better to... You can better write memoir at 90. Interesting. I taught one night for Native Daughters of the Golden West years ago, and I had people who write a little memory of history, and they didn't really want to publish. But one woman 90 plus could remember her father with a team of 4 horses in Northern California. She could remember the colors in the puddle as the horses pranced over. She could see that rainbow. So if you think we're a little overstuffed on short term, that's because we have an increasing long-term memory. What's the best age to write your book?
Anytime.
Now, and honestly, my breakthrough age has been students. 86 has been the magic age. A lot of World War II people.
Wow.
But I have many, many students who published. I just had a small handful here.
Really good. Happy.
Good. This was Kathy Yaden. Verbal. Sometimes she gets in trouble because she fits too soon. She came from the Dust Bowl era, post-Dust Bowl. No academic education in writing. She heard stories on the porch.
Wow.
Wonderful book. This man, Joe Talik, is Croatian. And he was forced as a child to be part of the silent exodus of 30,000 people out of Italy who were marched into the Sinai Desert, many children, actually by the British, to hold them during the war. And he talks about what it's like to try to live in 120-degree heat with the parents at home who didn't want him back, but his dear aunt with him. This is a bit of history that would have been lost forever if Joe, in his 70s, hadn't gotten it down.
Wow.
So, Dancing Mama, a woman, Juliana Richmond, who says, walking hand in hand with my father across a rutted dirt field stubbed with corn stalks to see the plane Lindy had flown across the Atlantic Ocean, I had no idea of its historical significance, no idea either of the history I would live through the next 8 decades. The year was 1927. I was 6 years old and hungry. All I wanted was my bologna sandwich and maybe a nap. What I would face in those decades to come were the kinds of challenges that make us all human. So this is her story. And I've had ones that have become, one woman was an Army dietitian for Walter Reed Hospital and knew General Patton. She did short skirts and snappy salutes at 86. She came to my writing class in Los Gatos about 83 or 4, and she said, I need to get out from under my mother's shadow. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, my mother just passed away at 106, and Governor Pete Wilson honored her breakthrough book, went worldwide from 103, and we always wrote letters, but this is my turn now.
Wow.
And this is really happening. This could happen to you, because how are we going to get from the generation born now, from us, to 100 and 120, unless we work to pioneer the way? This could happen to you. Let's see. So, good things for staying healthy. We know our movement, socialization, music. Music is a part that touches a part of our brain that isn't damaged even through Alzheimer's. So music, movement, and socialization. Go out, do some dancing with friends or sing. Which leads me to the book I wrote this last year. It's called The Last Piano Bar, and it is a novel which continues my character who started as a teenager and born in Berkeley, on through a mixture of fact and fiction. It's set in Alviso, where I wrote a photo essay book in 2006 with Robert Burrell. But I went later, when Joe died, I got caught up in a support group, and one of the men there was a country singer who hadn't sung in many years. I didn't think I could sing, but I went out with a fantasy that he would let me sing harmony once. And at first he said, you couldn't find a tune in a paper bag in Alviso. But I found it. So I had to learn to sing on my own. And this wonderful woman, Anita Lilpop, this glamorous pianist of an uncertain age, mentored many of us into singing. So now I'm kind of a hit singing. Buddy Holly should come and join us, and Chris too. But I learned from these people, many of whom had been in the musical world, which is creativity, that there was a kind of elegance they had graduated into. It's a new phase, and if you really want to live and not be marginalized and not be forced into false roles, particularly for women who are made into matronly rocking chair roles, if you get out of that and you listen to what the creative force is really telling you, this can be the best time in your life, the very best. So I had a friend Ernie Cassetta, who was a longtime Italian-American San Jose guy working a car business till 94. He was still out repossessing cars. And he was vibrantly healthy, but he'd been in the sun all his life. And a skin cancer cell migrated. Stanford said, probably do an operation. And Ernie said, well, I am in my 90s. So they radiated him and did many things to him. And he did cross over. And I wanted this book in his hand. So there's the last piano bar. Another friend, African-American friend, top physicist at Lockheed, Harvey Brown, who sang really great blues, was also saying, I may be crossing over, get this book finished. So some of these people, especially the 90 to 100-year-olds, were really influential in influencing it. The feistiest woman out there is a woman named Aida Butterfield, who was out dancing at 98 with her 20 years younger boyfriend. And when dancing, she took a stumble. It led to her later crossing over. She only had 3 days of illness. She was out dancing, romancing till 98. Wow. And I'm pretty sure that 80 people out there living over 100. So those are the stories and role models. Edgar Cayce said, let age only sweeten thee. And Edgar Cayce said, some of you can live as long as you have a purpose. You have a purpose, you can live. There are people whose lifespan is determined by a purpose. There were elements in Cayce's recommendation, not all of which I did on the train because I was eating other food, but he suggested that we stay alkaline in our diet. And the first thing that we eat in the morning can set up the pattern of resistance to bugs. So lemon and water, citrus fruits actually become alkaline by the time they process through the system in the Cayce philosophy. So having something citrus, but not with the same time as cereal or milk, something to maybe a handful of almonds. Almonds were associated with longevity. Raw almonds, longevity. And having some raw, fresh food. There wasn't a food really that Cayce the readings didn't allow. It was what it was balanced with. A lot about food combining.
Strawberries and broccoli, really good alcohol.
Strawberries and broccoli. So there's a book, the Edgar Cayce Handbook to Health by Harold Riley, that really goes over a lot of those dietary patterns. But coffee. But if you put cream in it, he said it was kind of a leathery thing in your digestive system. It could be used as a food sort of by itself, was in the readings. So raw vegetable salad somewhere in the day, and he talked about, I've never gotten this far, 3 vegetables above the ground to 1 below. So a potato or a rutabaga, and then some salad or things above. 2 in the leaf to 1 in the pod. There are lots of things for long life. He also talked about care, which is circulation, assimilation, relaxation, and elimination. All of these helpful. When I was back doing graduate work back there at Virginia Beach, I would meet people who were following the diet exactly, and they were so ageless looking. It was really remarkable. But it's not only what we eat, it's not what we put in our mouth, but what comes out of it. And the readings were a lot about self-knowledge, knowing the mysteries of the universe, but also loving service. Volunteerism extends your life, also proven. So can we think of areas in which we think negatively about age, of ourselves or others? Anybody think that way? Send out falling apart jokes? We might rethink it and really look to the philosophy that we find in earth-based traditions, like the Celtic goddess tradition, isn't that life, you go up to one age and it's downhill, but rather it's a spiral. And every phase of life is very valuable. When I talked to Kathy Jones from Glastonbury and had been writing novels, she and I came together from two countries. Something that I had figured out myself, she had also had certainly figured out, and that was that in the goddess tradition, the old concept of maiden, mother, and chronos, time, there was more to it. There was maiden, lover, mother, queen, and crone. So you may be in your queen and king phase, and this is a time for you to really celebrate that if you're moving into that. Writing your story is important because you have lived through a moment, a place, a time, and a perspective that no one else knows. Stanford Hoover Pavilion said they would rather collect your stories about an event than have any historical facts, because the compilation of all our stories will tell the truth. If you thought of writing and you don't like grammar, you weren't good at grammar and spelling, wonderful, because the right brain or the synergized two brains shouldn't be bothered with that at first. And I tell students, as my teachers told me, 5 or 10 minutes a day of rapid free writing is enough. Put it aside. If one day you want to write 4 hours, then go and do it. The key is that we have an internal critic, editor, and a playful child storyteller. Now, Janet knows how to allow the playful musical storyteller to flow through her. She knows how not to edit it out. And in some ways, I know through writing. My characters now will sort of come to me. I start hearing the words, and I better stop at the intersection and write what they say on the Safeway bag, because they are flowing through me. I'm not doing all of it myself. At a point, I better edit it. But editing, too, should be playful and fun. You should say, this is it, unless when I sit down, another word's going to come in my mind. It should just be a time for you to flow and be surprised, because you have a hidden observer inside of you that has been watching all the way through your life. And wouldn't you like to know what she says or he says? This observer knows a lot more than you do. It's a little different when you write creatively than channeled or inspired writing. Inspired writing would be very in the Cayce philosophy that we can go directly to our higher self, to the creator. And sometimes a guide comes from the creator, but the reliance is we go directly to the source, to the mother, father, source. So that's inspired. And automatic writing, Cayce was a little cautious about, be careful, before you say to an entity, take over my hand. But sometimes people are strongly inspired by someone who has crossed over. And if you're doing this to be of help, and you keep the white light around you, it's good. Creative writing is letting your unconscious mind, shadow, light, experiences, spiritual, sexy, all of it, pour through you. And it's really a lot of fun. I've had trouble sometimes with certain generations, like I had at first many from the greatest generation. And they were raised, and the silent generation, which is around, in our country, the Korean conflict, women's looking at their roles for the first time in recent times. They would say, I don't want to write about that. It's a downer. It's so sad. It's not good. Well, actually, that is your conflict. That's the exciting thing. What did you go through? What I read personally, frankly, and I just plow through them, I want to read somebody's real story. The grittier, the better. The harder, the tougher. Yeah. I mean, I bet there's some stories in this room that would really rivet me. Why am I looking at you, Ronnie? I don't know why. But I get this feeling that there's some stories in this room. And you don't have to write it in order, because creativity doesn't always go in a line. Right. One day, I used to get Vanessa finally on a bus to a program, and I was with my second husband, Joe, who was very supportive of writing. And he, very fatherly to all of us. And so he realized I was a computer nebbish after 14 months. He just made it where I could type Lynn, and I was into writing and flowing. And I would play the Pachelbel Canon Suite over and over. So every day, a different story would pop out about being a young person in a new age group in San Jose. Was once called the Family of Man. Does anyone remember it?
Yeah.
And there was this charismatic woman, a leader. She was a blue-collar housewife. Her mother had been into many metaphysical things, but she was drawn to meet Jessica, a wise woman who carried on Cayce's work, and through her I met Jessica too. But when I was in this group of young people, it was the best of times and the worst of times. It was the 70s. And she was experimenting in different directions in her relationship, her orientation. There were all kinds of things going on in this milieu. And yet it was a kind of awakening in play and metaphysical learning, and also learning how to find the light within you and not follow a guru. So every day, I had lived through it, but every day when Vanessa got on the bus, I played the music. One day it was year 7. The next day it was year 3. I just let those scenes flow out. For those of you in theater, writing a scene would be easy because you are just, the curtain goes up and you let us hear people talking. You give us, instead of the stage setting, you kind of let us know that she's stepping over a plush rug. There's a conflict, there's some action, and we're in a moment in time, and we're there with you. And you don't have to conclude or teach or preach. We're going to go in and relive it with you. It's really a wonderful experience to get your story down or allow a story to come through you. Creativity and ageless living, music, creativity, cooking, volunteering, woodwork, being a health practitioner, being a good parent. It's creativity and letting the creative force flow through you is revitalizing to you. And also realizing your stage of life is equally good to the one you had earlier when you had to go to had to have your skin checked when you were an adolescent. Each phase has its difficulty. I went to a women's museum of art near the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. in 2006. And there was this huge book. It was hard to carry on the train. I didn't get it. But there were really real photographs of the reality of life at all the different ages. Not the stuff that's airbrushed and sold for commercial use. A young girl on a beach, a teenager, a few blemishes, the little bit of baby fat, that unknowing look, that look of inquiry, a mother who just had a baby and all the things that go on with us, the beauty of maturing women. It was a women's museum. It really all has reinforced to me that we need to look at age with our eyes, not the media it's benefiting financially in many cases by selling us products to make us be a different age. On the train trip we took, my late brother's son was getting married near New York. We stopped in hotels that the bride's mother had arranged, and it was the very opposite of the train. People had a great deal of wealth, and the magazines there immediately opened to invasive surgeries to change how you felt. So I did a couple of readings there, and one woman said, and she looked lovely. She was 70, she was beautiful, she exercised, but I'm so unhappy inside, and I think if I sign up for this big surgery, it might change. And it turned out she had a special needs son who had become special needs through an injury. We talked about what the risks of that were and what she could instead do to allow her own, to acknowledge her own beauty and let it flow. So there's a lot of pressure in society on women and more on men as well, and in certain communities, certain orientations, it's really strong to have this narrow model of a person that as we really grow older, we find that people are quite fascinating ahead of us to see what they're doing and what they know. It's quite fascinating. So, we're on time, but okay, so I noticed when I got into this, and it was many, many years ago I started questioning all of this, that the magazines, women's magazines, fashion magazines, always had people who were just out of high school or college, and now, in the last couple of years, if you've been really looking, how to be beautiful at any age. Have you seen those in the magazines now? I mean, they're going on through, 70, soon it'll be 80, 90, 100. and colors that are particularly good, ways you can celebrate. That is really a change. And the swimsuit issues of like People or related magazines in the last 2 years at my local drugstore, the hotties now are including people who are baby boomers and older. Christy Brinkley now is the big swimsuit person, and she's moving into her 60s. So it isn't that that's the only answer, but it's showing that we are starting to balance out a little bit. Robert Redford said, if I am forced to act with one more actress who's 20 or 30 years younger than I as my romantic counterpart, when I could have Jane Fonda or Meryl Streep, I'm going to quit. And Paul Newman called Joanne Woodward my functioning voluptuary at one time. But it's how we choose to put our energy. We can go into that hotel in New Jersey and say, my gosh, should I be repaired? Or we can really be a light to others and talk about things differently. The next woman I read for was thinking of opening a spa in the salon, and I said, what would it be like if you offered holistic methods of revitalizing our beauty and our spirit? So when we take a stand for any issue and we start speaking the truth, the new truth, we're not subjective anymore to those messages. We're not listening and taking them in and feeling crummy. Each age has its challenges and its positive aspects, but what are we going to do if the human lifespan is expanding more than in any time in recorded history? And how can we be mentors for a generation yet to be born who are going to have a great lifespan? This was from a magazine, I think translated from Russia, Secrets of Methuselahs, and this was back decades. But certainly there are a lot of people in certain parts of the world who have elongated lifespans. Of course, these people, I think he's 106, his wife is turning 100, and they probably walk in clean mountain air, and they have little rituals. They found, too, if you have something you enjoy doing at a certain time of day, little rituals in your life, those can be helpful to you and soothing. So my overall message is really to look at the physical, psychological, and spiritual aspects of ageless creativity and looking at lengthening our lifespans. Before we wrap this up, is there anybody who wants to say something that's burning to add something? Yes, you, sir.
I was reading on the internet, well, it was this morning, the biggest cause of seniors in care homes, the biggest cause of death is loneliness.
Loneliness. Loneliness. A community like this is very life-giving. Really helps with your longevity. Come here.
Yeah, and to that extent, there is experiments on several churches and things that they are doing daycare for seniors in the school for children, for young children, in the same place.
Right.
In the same, they mix. Of course, the seniors have their own activities, children have their own activities, but there are lots of times where they mix, and play yard is mixed and everything. So the seniors are interacting with young children all day.
Yeah.
For
intergenerational.
helping them to do projects, reading books to them, and things like this.
In Santa Clara County, we have the foster grandparent program, and they go to, I worked at juvenile hall for 27 years, so they be in juvenile hall, they go, some of them go to the neonatal at Valley Medical, just cuddle the babies and hug them and talk to them. Some of them go to different elementary schools and read to them, and it's wonderful that, I love our grandmas and grandpas.
Yes.
I caregive two women. One is, I don't really caregive, I just help them as a third hand in their house and drive them places. And it's mostly companionship. One is 95 and one is 98.
That's awesome.
And the stories are,
it's like an open history.
you really nailed it. She was telling me the other day, this was so funny, she said, at 13, I was at Berkeley, and I remember this great tennis player, and I forget the name, but and Virginia Bruce. I mean, she's 95 and she remembers from 13. Being at the
That's
Claremont.
my theory, yeah.
And watching and seeing Virginia Bruce at the Claremont, and also this, and I looked it up on Google, and my God, you know, her ability to storytell. I've given her 2 tape recorders. I can't get her to write.
That's
But-
another way to record.
Right.
To
Well,
record.
yeah, but it's just amazing. I'm surprised.
So that theory is confirmed through your experience, that
Absolutely.
the long memory, and it occurs to me that our higher power, the life force, probably needs older adults to be able to communicate long
Yes.
memory so the next generation can benefit. You had something and we're about to.
Carrying on.
One more thing, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you one more thing, please?
Okay.
This is really important. Thank you for reminding us to dance. Dancing reduces the risk of Alzheimer's 76% less risk of Alzheimer's if you dance.
Wow.
You have like 20% less if you walk, 30% less if you read and do crosswords. All these things are helpful to keep your mind. But what keeps that is your juices, your brain juices. What makes those brain juices run is dancing. And that is what the point she was making. There is part of the brain that processes music that is not even touched with by Alzheimer's, that the plaque that makes Alzheimer's doesn't build there. So dance, guys, dance, and have 76% less risk to develop Alzheimer's. So even by yourself at home.
We live in a new age. You're the pioneers. And Casey said, let age only sweeten thee. Carl Jung said, this is the part of our life for our spiritual quest. Be a pioneer and think positively about maturing. It's the best time that we've had on the planet to be a maturing adult. Thank you.
Yay!